Are there missed opportunities to reduce transportation costs because of a lack of collaboration between shippers and carriers around issues such as weight and capacities? Well, that was the thesis of a very interesting blog post by Warehouse Optimization, a provider of a variety of tools to help companies in distribution and transportation improvement. We have here today two folks from Warehouse Optimization. That's Tom Moore, who wrote that blog post, as well as he's the founder of the company and president, as well as Will Cotten, who is a director of operations, actually spent some time in the trucking industry. They're joining us today from the Nashville, Tennessee area to talk about this interesting topic. Tom, Will, thanks so much for joining us today.
Pleasure, Will.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, Tom, got your blog post in the mail as I do every week. It was very interesting, and it started out with an anecdote about a carrier or a shipper, I believe, in Texas that actually couldn't work things out with the carrier in terms of making some changes that would reduce their freight costs. Why don't you share with us that anecdote?
Certainly can. Texas, like many states, has some rules that allow you to get a permit to increase the shipment size. Now, companies don't always know about these things, but in Texas you can get a permit that gets you to 84,000 pounds in gross weight. With the company having relatively small geography that they were shipping basically from their plants to their distribution centers, they would see significant benefits by probably increasing their load size by about 10%. So they went back to the carrier and said, hey, how about doing this? We'll pay the cost of the permits, you do this. The carrier came back and said, no, sorry, we're not prepared to do that. Our trucks can't handle that kind of weight. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily a true statement. If you look at the trucks and understand the gross capabilities of those vehicles, you can see that that's well within their capacity. We are also dealing with a very small geographic area, so the cost would not be very large.
Very interesting. So, well, Will, Warehouse Optimization used that specific example to say there may be other opportunities, but that often carriers and drivers don't really understand a whole lot about weights and rules and all that stuff and some of these opportunities. That was news to me. What can you share with us?
That's correct. Most carriers and drivers don't understand their equipment capabilities. They're going off of tribal knowledge and experience. And if you were to go to two carriers today and talk to fleet managers, planners, drivers, you get a wide range of answers on what their equipment can actually haul when it comes to weight. And they did give you the same answer, say 45,000 pounds, and you ask them how they came to that. It wasn't through testing. It was actually just something that's been handed down by word of mouth through the years. And as I'm sure you know, carriers get paid the same whether they haul 38,000 pounds or 48,000 pounds. The challenge they face is when they do haul the heavier weights, they're fearful of issues like over axles, which turn into reworks, then hours of service problems, on-time delivery issues, and then driver retention problems. Now, that may seem extreme or excessive, but the two companies I worked for over 10 years, we ran into those problems all the time. Now, I was given one incentive over the years by one customer I had in the Northeast, and we were hauling an average of 45,500 pounds monthly for them. And I set up a call with the transportation manager and said, I'm needing more loads. What do we need to do? And he said if I could haul on average 46,600 pounds, he'd give me as many loads as we wanted. So I talked to drivers, people in the office, the COO, the president, and a lot of people were skeptical that we could not get above 45.5 on average. So I took my best driver and our standard equipment. I didn't use ultralights or anything, just our standard equipment so that I could repeat it if it held true, and found out after a couple loads that we could actually haul 46.6 on average, and even on occasions 47.2. So putting tribal knowledge to the side, found out that we could actually haul more than I had been told over the years.
Well, this is very interesting. All the years I've been doing this kind of stuff, I've never heard anyone bring up this issue specifically. Tom, given that's the sort of the status quo there, Will just gave us an example of what one shipper did about it, but any general advice for shippers in terms of addressing these opportunities?
No, key to this is overcoming the whole tribal knowledge. And the only way to overcome tribal knowledge is with true data. And the data things like know what the rules are. I mentioned Texas has got this ability to get a permit. There are roads in the United States, for example, the Indiana Tollway that allows you to haul extra weight or double trailers. And there are places like Nebraska that allow you to haul 85,000 pounds. You can haul from, for example, from Tennessee down to the ports with a triaxle trailer, 52,000 pounds loads in containers. So all these things are possible, but you've got to know about them because, unfortunately, carriers don't generally bring them to your attention. The second is, like Wu had just indicated, if we weigh the equipment, if you go and ask a carrier, and we've done this, you go and ask a carrier, how heavy are your trucks? And they'll come back and they'll say, oh, our trucks are this heavy or that heavy. And the reality of the situation is they don't know. And the true data point that you can come up with is run the trucks across a scale, because the scale gives you unimpeachable data. So to add to that point, several of our clients are now putting scales on site, which really is helping them. You know, the other point, when you're bidding the business, go into your routing guide and say, Mr. Carrier, I want you to give us not just the rate that you're going to go from A to B, but what weight you are prepared to haul from A to B. Now that then creates a routing guide that has maybe 2 or 3 different weight capabilities. And you'll see the best run companies have, 50% of our volumes allocated to a company that can haul 46,000 pounds, 25 to somebody who can haul 45, etc. And that adds an additional level of complexity, of course, because various companies on the same lane then means that you have to build your loads differently for each truck's capability and have your TMS correctly assign the carrier. And that's in itself a little bit of a challenge. Building the loads to the correct weight requires software like our Auto O2 software, and not all TMSs will in fact take into consideration the weight factor. So summary, you need to have knowledge. You need to have the ability to knock down the tribal knowledge problems. And, in the immortal words of Ronald Reagan, it's trust but verify.
Well, very good. I tell you, this is an opportunity to reduce transportation costs that I have rarely, if ever, heard mentioned. It sounds like there were some significant opportunities here. Tom, Will, thanks so much for joining us today on the Supply Chain Television channel.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.